Hey everybody, thanks for stopping by for another video. Today we're going to be looking at a Qui Gon Set 5 Qui Gon Green deck with Force base that's basically just looking to cheat and to play a bunch of units with sneak attack and trying to get the most value that we can out of the Qui Gon Leader. And it's something I've been kind of messing around with. Sideboard is just a work in progress at the moment, but this is something that I've been considering giving a try here lately. So I figured the best course of action is just to go through this. Obviously, we're going to be using the 28 point common force base so that we can enable the Qui-Gon leader. And there is a couple of really fun sneaky lines in here that I'll go over as we go along. First up, we've got Gunji. 7 points of stats for a 2-drop is pretty great. I didn't want to include a General's Blade in here just for the possibility of getting 2 for 1 against Vigilance Villainy decks. I just wanted to try to avoid that if at all possible. But we do want to keep a critical mass of Force or Jedi units. Just for the Starlight Temple, the force base here. We've got 3 Luke Skywalker. 3-2 for 2 is nothing particular to write home about, but we do have some potential plays with it being a pilot in space, and if it dies, it comes back. Youngling Padawan is just another way that we can get the force and cheat something into play. We don't really have anything on one that we can get in, but later lines we will need something like that to just enable the force. Sneak attack is one of the best cards for Qui-Gon from what I've seen anyway. I did initially want to try to get in. Now there are 2 of them as well too, just another way to cheat some units into play, but I'm not super crazy about that. Sneak attack is definitely the best to go. So it gives us a total of 9 2-drops in this deck. I do have 2 of the Ahsoka from set 3, where she gains ambush. And the reason why I'm including the Ahsoka in here is primarily just because there will be times where, since we're returning units to our hand, that we will enable her ambush. And I wanted to have other units that could return themselves as well too, just to protect themselves against some removal potentially. Or if we need to later on get another card in our hand, this unit has the ability to do that. The blue leader is great because we can either have it as a 3-3 in space or a 5-5 on the ground with ambush. Nothing to not like here. The Obi-Wan has proven itself to be one of the best units in the game, in my opinion, at the very least. 3-5 Sentinel for 3. 3-5s for 3 by themselves are great, but anytime that we play another Force unit, getting a Sentinel, pretty fantastic. We can't have the Qui-Gon deck without Ahsoka, the discard Ahsoka, the 4-cost 3-5. That makes your opponent discard a card. Returning it with Qui-Gon, putting something else into play, playing her again. It's just a very good loop, and it's a nice way to kind of force your opponent out of cards. The Azatec Liberator gunship is a good way to remove space threats. Good solid 4-cost 3-4 ambush in space, pretty clean answer. And we've got Bright Hope as well too, another way for us to pick up a damaged unit and potentially replay it with the Qui-Gon ability. Very strong with this deck in particular. Plus, it's also going to let us draw another card if we do pick something else up. One thing I wanted to note, for some reason, I'm just looking at the art for Qui-Gon. He really looks a lot like Keanu Reeves from particularly the John Wick series. That's probably just me, but looking at that, he looks a lot like Keanu in that in that art. So just thought that'd be something fun to bring up. The Poe Dameron 4-cost is either going to give us a ground unit with a space unit with a 2-2 X-Wing, or it's going to let us pilot something as well. So at the very least, we're going to get the 2-2 X-Wing, and Poe can be a pilot on something, or just be a 3-3 ground. Just a very solid unit. 5 cost. We do have Cantina Bouncer. Yes, this is double aspect, but Qui Gon's ability doesn't care about that per se. It's just as long as it's a non-villainy unit, and Cantina Bouncer is certainly not a villainy unit. So when we get up the chain a little bit further with cards like Depo Balaba or General Raikan, it's um it's a good card because we can just keep returning troublesome cards back to their hands. This is just the first draft. Actually, this is the second draft of this. There's a couple other cards I was thinking of as well too potentially, but we can go over those later. The Space Leia. There is a very neat trick, and the reason why I'm playing just one is because if you sneak attack this Leia into play and you already have the Force token, you can immediately move her to the ground, give her self +2/+2, and everything else on the board +2/+2. So it's not something that I'm counting on all the time. It's a it's a fun combo, and it's pretty cool. Essentially, we're not paying that much. We're paying what, four for it total, but being able to give your whole team +2/+2 is kind of cool. And then you could just return her and play something like an Ahsoka and exhaust an opponent's unit. So it's really cool. Plo Koon, ambush units are very good with Qui Gon because you're going to get them into play. You're going to be able to defeat an opposing unit and then just return it back to hand and not have to worry about the damage on there. Depo Balaba, similar. Ambush for 6-drop, but this also has Saboteur. So if we need to get rid of shields, this is a great way to go about doing that. Get rid of the shields and then return it back to our hand with a Qui Gon ability. I've been debating on going up to 3 Raikan with this build because it's a very solid card. Most likely I give Sentinel to Raikan himself, but there's so many possibilities with Raikan. It's just a great card in this deck, and being able to return it back to your hand and do something like a Plo Koon or something even lower along the way is pretty great. Now, one thing I did want to point out is you don't have to pay something that costs 1 less. It's anything that costs less with this Qui Gon Leader. The wording on this specifically says return a friendly non-leader unit to its owner's hand. So it's worded that way in case you control an opponent's card. Play a non-villainy unit that costs less than the returned unit from your hand for free. So if you play Raikan, give something Sentinel, and then return the Raikan, you can play a 2-cost unit if you want. You can play a 3-cost, anything less than 6, so 5 or less. Just an important thing to note, sometimes sometimes for value you will need to go with something that costs less. The Enfys Nest, it's a good card. I don't want to commit a ton, but being able to constantly return an opposing unit to its owner's hand is pretty great, as is the Han Solo. The shoot first mechanic is fantastic, so is ambush. Keller and Beck, there's a little bit of a combo. It's a live the dream type of thing, and I'll go over it now. What I ultimately wanted to do, and I think it's a cool line, and I'm not expecting this to happen often, is to play the Yoda unit, use the Force, you gain your 5 life, you shoot something with Yoda's ability when you use the Force. And then I want to return it to hand, play the Keller and Beck, and go get something else where I can immediately put that into play with the 3 or less, or however many resources we've got left, and go from there. It just seems like a lot of value. But Keller and Beck himself is a pretty solid unit. The 7 cost, 7/7, lets you search cards and put something that costs 3 or less into play. Of note, you can put something that costs more than 3. This just gives a 3 cost reduction to the unit that you find with him. Well, one is just a very solid card. It's Restore, and it gives everything that you attack with restore as well. Plus, it's, as I said, it's going to let you return something from your discard pile back to play. A good rule with this is usually something like an Obi-Wan, where you can get a Sentinel into play. You also notice an off color or off aspect redemption here. And this is just kind of a way to hedge the later game. And I've had a lot of success with this where I'll put it into play. I'll restore, heal 8 points off of my base or off of critical units that I need to live. And then I'll just return it back to my hand with Qui Gon and put a 7 cost unit into play. It's very good. And then you can just keep doing that over and over and over. It's very helpful. The most I've done with this is I've played Redemption twice in a turn, which was pretty nice, but that required sneak attack. And the one other time I did it was with Keller and Beck, where I just paid the difference. And then lastly, we touched on this just a little bit, is the Yoda Legendary from set 5. It has the when played ability where you can heal 5. You can heal 5 damage from your base. But one thing is, whenever you use the Force, you're going to also deal 2 times the number of units in damage to an opposing unit. So it's a very solid unit. Obviously, it costs 8, so it's going to be very difficult to get this into play a lot. And I really love to have more than 2, but it's just not super practical. And that's the gist of it. Some of the fun things you can do is the Yoda into Keller and Beck has been my favorite play. I have done the sneak attack with Leia and given everything +2/+2, which is nice. The Poe is super flexible because I usually make this 2 units, and I get the 3/3 on the ground and I get a 2/2 in space. Occasionally, I will attach Poe to a space unit. The Luke onto something like a Bright Hope has also been pretty beneficial for me. In times where your board is locked down, sometimes playing the Youngling Padawan and just getting the Force token has been effective as well too, because it allows you to basically circumvent the Force base and just you get the Force, so you can use your Qui Gon leader right away. It's a fun leader for sure, and I think there's definitely some promise. But I believe this still needs a little bit of work. I am considering doing something like Ewing reinforcements, because it lets us cheat units into play, and that's really what Qui-Gon ultimately wants to do, is cheat as much stuff as you can into play, return it back to your hand, put something else into play, and get as much value off of it as you can. The Hotshot DL44s, I do like those in here just as a way to push damage. It's very tough to kind of fit that in because with Qui-Gon himself, you really want to focus on units. One thing that I would like to put more in is the set 1 Leia Organa that allows you to exhaust a unit or to ready a resource. That's pretty powerful with this, because there are some times where you just need to exhaust something, and that in sideboarding that actually did win me a game once where I was able to exhaust an opposing unit and my opponent had to pass, and I'm sorry, they had to claim, and from there I just attacked with my last unit and I won the game. So it's a solid card for sure. Finding room for it is a little bit difficult. And I suppose I could go over 50 cards, but I'd like to try to keep this as close to 50 as possible. Another card, obviously, that would be good in here would be a Tech. I always think Tech is a great 51st card for almost any deck, even with an aspect penalty, just because it gives you access to your resources later in the game. That's the deck. I've had a lot of fun playing this, and it's certainly something that I would like to bring down to locals. One other card I've been considering is the Sanctioner Shuttle in here, as it is a way to capture a troublesome unit. We do have the ability to get coordinate pretty quickly with this deck. So I definitely have been considering that. And as I said before, the sideboard was just kind of a last minute thrown together thing. Leia for sure definitely needs to be in the deck, or at least in the sideboard. But yeah, it's been a solid deck. I wouldn't consider this a tier 1 deck, maybe a tier 2. It's a lot of fun, and I would absolutely consider playing this in your locals event. So I wanted to just say thanks so much for stopping by, checking out the video and the content here. If you do like what you see here, certainly urging everybody to subscribe and to like the video. Really helps me out a lot, especially being a new content creator, or I should say new with Star Wars Unlimited. I used to do content for another game, but really wanted to say thanks again for stopping by. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and just wanted to say take care. Best of luck in all your games. Be well, my friends, and may the Force be with you.